Hey, 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 the Sixers Talk podcast with you once again for all of my What's Happening fans out there. Hey, good to see you. Good to be with you. Danny Pommells, Ben Berry here. Noah Levick will not be making it today, but he picked a good day to take off because the Sixers have so many people in the doldrums right now and trying to figure out what kind of team this is and where they're going next. It was a tough loss to the Celtics, a tough watch. It was not a pretty game by any stretch. We're going to talk about Tyrese Maxey, Seth Curry still looking magnificent, and getting to Tobias Harris and all the goings on. But of course, Joel Embiid is the story, just his second game back from COVID. But let's start with that final possession, Ben, because so many people are confused by the game planning and Tyrese Maxey not being on the floor and the fact that this is 2 out of 3 games here, the Timberwolves game and this game against the Boston Celtics, where they had a final possession that looked completely awful and they barely get a look at the hoop. What did you see on the final possession? And are you hanging Doc Rivers out to dry on this, or are you putting it more on Tobias Harris and the players and the execution?
Danny, a week ago we all celebrated Thanksgiving. Well, most of us celebrated Thanksgiving. If you don't, shout out, respect. But you and I, we celebrated Thanksgiving. What we were thankful for: family, health. I was not thankful for that game last night. I don't think anyone should have been thankful for that game last night. It was brutal. It wasn't fun to watch. And that last possession, man, I think it was, and not to even bring Ben Simmons up into this, but it shows like Doc didn't put a ball handler or a point guard out on the floor. He said he wanted shooters out there. That's why Tyrese Maxey wasn't in the game. So you had Niang inbounding the ball. You got it to Tobias Harris, who they pulled the switch between him and Joel Embiid, where they had Jaylen Brown on Embiid, a big mix match, 6 inches. You had Al Horford, who Sixers fans love here, guarding Tobias Harris. And Tobias just looked lost. He caught the ball dribbling away from the basket, and by the time he passed the ball up, there was less than a second shot left on the clock, and the Sixers had to get up a non-good look. And Embiid and Seth Curry walking away just looked frustrated. I put it on Tobias Harris. I put it on Doc Rivers. That final play was a disaster from beginning to end.
Yeah, it's difficult. You make some great points, and I think that was also something you could point to in the double OT loss to the Timberwolves, where Embiid caught the ball so far from the basket, and his momentum was taking him away from the hoop, and then he got double teamed. You could look back at the fact that Tobias Harris, he's not a ball handler necessarily, and you have Tyrese Maxey on the bench, someone who can get their own shot, not on the floor. So you're paying Tobias all this money. It's kind of like you're defaulted into trying to get the ball to Embiid or Tobias because they are the guys who are being paid like they're the all-star pros, top level go shot getters. And Tobias, give Al Horford some credit. He was in his shorts. He was in Tobias's shorts and forced him almost to half court until he could make that turn. I thought Coach Lynham brought up an interesting point on Sixers post-game live that when he was coaching and Charles Barkley was on the Sixers, in situations like that, I don't care if you just got to throw it straight up in the air. Just throw it up there. Charles will go get it type of thing. And I think with that mismatch you mentioned with Jaylen Brown on Embiid, it was more or less you had to sell out to try to get the ball to Joel if you're Tobias and try to if you had to lob it up in the air and just make it a 50-50 ball or whatever, but you get the ball to Joel Embiid. The Sixers couldn't, get even a shot, a clean look at the hoop in a 1-point game. And it's just so frustrating because particularly in 1-point games, you can point to 1,000 things besides the last play to give evidence of why they lost the game. And this is definitely a game indicative of that. Embiid shooting horribly, Tobias shooting horribly, nobody really shooting well except Seth Curry. So, I think the players deserve some blame with all that I just said. Now, on the Doc Rivers side of things, a good coach is supposed to get you a couple of wins, a couple of borderline games. He's coaching against his former team. Former Sixers assistant is coaching on the other side. You got Al Horford and Josh Richardson, former Sixers players. They want it real bad. The Sixers just didn't seem to want it as much as the home team did, the Celtics. And here they are, game one of this 4-game road trip, 2-4 on the previous road trip, 6 games out west. They go 1-1 at home, and they're starting this off with the loss, and now they're 11-11 on the season. I think that last play and Doc Rivers as a coach, Dan Roach, one of our producers at NBC Sports Philadelphia, I hosted Sixers Outsiders last night. He brought up a question of, is Doc Rivers a significant upgrade over Brett Brown? And right now, you can't say that he is. I mean, the team hasn't gotten past the second round of the playoffs. Like, I see you having a hard. What you think, Ben? Like, is he?
Danny, I'm not even going to go to the solo shot for this. Guys at home, I'm producing and hosting. I don't have it on me because the way this is set up, this isn't like old-fashioned radio where I can just drop the sound. What did I tell you after they hired Doc Rivers? What did I tell you? What did I tell the listeners? I said he wasn't an upgrade. The 7 years he was with the Clippers, Brett Brown had a better playoff winning percentage than him. They said he would bring accountability. There was no accountability in Boston when he was there. There was no accountability in Orlando when he was there. There was no accountability with the Clippers when he was out there. Doc Rivers is a guy that a lot of players, a lot of media personnel likes. But when it comes to creating a game plan and holding his players accountable to execute, I mean, what has he done? He's won an NBA championship. No one is putting that on him. They had at the end of the prime, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, they had Tom Thibodeau's defense, and they won a ring. He's been living off of that for a long time. What one ring can do to someone's reputation is astonishing to me. But Doc Rivers, good guy, seems like a solid guy. He's not that great of a coach. I don't think he's really an upgrade. Brett Brown isn't here anymore for them to put the blame on him. And I'm not, as you know, I'm not a Brett Brown apologist. I think he probably should have been, the Sixers should have moved on a year before they actually did it. But you can't blame him for accountability. They got rid of Jimmy Butler, a player like that would have helped last night, someone able to create and get their own shot. They don't have any of that on the perimeter. I put a lot of this on the players and the front office for not having a cohesive unit, and just instead of talent, but no, does this talent work with your star players? And a lot of it has not. Tobias Harris, he's supposed to be the guy that can get his own shot. He signed a max contract, and this isn't for him signing it, because if they would have signed me the max contract, offered me the max contract, I would have signed it. But he can't get his own shot. And apart from that, he looks lost on defense. They made the move for Al Horford a couple of years, or Josh Richardson. A lot of this just is not working out. And although the players need to execute, it comes from Doc Rivers and the people above for thinking, hey, let's just slap a Band-Aid on this instead of actually dealing with the problems the team has on hand.
I'm not so quick to indict him as a coach for his whole career. I mean, the guy got 1,000 wins, one of 10 coaches to reach the plateau. Okay, that does signify a lot of longevity, but he can win. He can win games, and he can get teams in positions to win. Them blowing a 3-1 lead with the Clippers and him doing that in the past,
multiple times.
It can't be all on him. Yes, he bears a lot. He bears a lot of the brunt. But you said something that I think does bear repeating and does need a little bit more delving into. And that was that he said he had Maxey on the bench because he wanted shooters on the floor. But if Ben Simmons was on the team, he's been on the floor 1,000 times in those late game situations, and he is not a shooter. So
Ben probably would have been inbounding the ball, though.
Okay, but
But
you got
yeah,
a
now
guy like Niang. You got a guy like Niang. Like there's the whole, watch the inbounder. So you inbound the ball, and then maybe they screen for you, and you get the ball back or something like that. So there's more nuance there if the inbounder is actually a shooter, which I think maybe he was trying to take advantage of last night. It didn't come to fruition because of Al Horford's defense pushing Tobias Harris all the way out. But I say all that to say that it can't just be a blanket response of I wanted shooters out there of why Maxey wasn't on the floor, because in the end, you had an opportunity with 6 seconds to get something going to the basket. You want shooters in a 3-point game. You want shooters maybe in a 2-point. This is a 1-point game. You can just get to the free throw line, draw a foul, which Tobias Harris isn't really adept at doing. Tyrese Maxey is starting to come into that, and not making the whole case about Maxey being out there, but there's holes that you can poke in everybody's philosophy, but particularly 2 out of the last 3 games, the possessions didn't go the Sixers' way in games that they should have won, and here they are at 11-11 and possibly losing another game as they visit the Atlanta Hawks, who obviously have payback on their minds from the Sixers beating them in South Philly earlier this year. So it's a lot to digest for the Sixers right now, and they need to try to figure out a way to figure it out. Question for you, though. Do you think the road is a great place to be having these issues and trying to figure them out, or would you prefer that these would be things that they would be doing at home? Personally, I think the road, I see why some people might pick the road, but I think at home, the Sixers need practice. They need time to come together as a unit, time to gel once more from all of the upheaval from guys having COVID and being out with injuries. But what do you think about that?
I don't put too much stock or value in the home or away. I know I'm in a minority there. A couple of years ago, the Sixers had a great home record, and then they lost in Disney World last year. They continued that great home record. Then I believe they lost 3 to 4 games they lost to the Hawks were here in Philly, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, game 5 and 7, they definitely lost at home.
Yeah, so I think they need practice. I think they need a better roster. I think they need to fine tune some of the coaching points and what they want their identity to be. Doing it at home might be better since everyone, like, traveling for work is cool unless you do it all the time. There's something valuable about being in your own place, around your family, in your own bed. But I don't think dealing with this on the road or at home throughout most of the 22 games this season is a sign of good things to come.
Well, Mark Jackson made a point that on the post-game show that having these issues on the road means that you're kind of in the silo. Like, you don't have your family to deal with. You're kind of strictly focused on each other and getting better, on the road. Whereas, I can see that. I can see the merit in that, but I just feel like they need some practice time. They need time where, reacclimating Joel looked great when he played 45 minutes, which is kind of weird in retrospect, considering it be his first game back from COVID and to have no restriction on him. But I guess they were really trying to win that game, which they didn't. But in the last 2 games, he went 3 for 17 last night, 4 for 16 in the game against the Magic. Well, although they did win that game, but I mean, those numbers just are disgusting, and he just didn't seem to have quite his shooting touch. If we can transition to Joel a bit, are you still linking his issues to COVID? Are you feeling like his problems are just getting reacclimated with the team? Do you think he's just still trying to get his legs under him? What are you seeing from Joel?
I've been fortunate enough that I have not tested positive for COVID. I think knowing that, I think it could be.
He himself linked it to COVID last night. So let's just put that out there. He himself, after the game, said that he's still kind of getting out of the funk and trying to get out of the fog, so to speak, of being in COVID.
So I think part of it is COVID. I think part of it, which is an effect of COVID, is just feeling exhausted, and he didn't have the best conditioning beforehand. And when the
He looks
team
good
is
though. You gotta give him credit. He looks good. He doesn't look like he has the weight back or what have you. He looks in some of the best shape we've seen him in.
physically, yes, he looks good. I'm just talking about the quickness and things like that, just having the energy. I don't think that's there. So with the Sixers, well, beforehand, the previous seasons, when they had Ben Simmons in the lineup, it was let's ride Joel until the wheels fall off. And now that it's just him and Ben isn't here, that's definitely going to be the recipe for wins. And hopefully Seth and Tobias, Tyrese, Furkan, other guys can chip in. If Embiid's struggling, the whole team is going to struggle. And I just don't think he has the pep in his step. And he's fully recovered from his bout with COVID.
It's weird because you got a guy like Danny Green who's had this lingering hamstring issue, and they have him on a restriction. But guys coming off of COVID like Matisse, Joel, Tobias, it doesn't seem to be any restriction in them being out there. So just something else to point to. Winning is a great deodorant, as they say, and the deodorant is worn off right now because the way the Sixers look, you're trying to figure out where they are and where they're going, and it's hard to see clear lines right now. But there are some good things to get to. Surprisingly, we'll talk a little Shake Milton, Seth Curry after we take a quick time out here. More Sixers Talk podcast after this.
Start college, build skills, and complete your degree with Wilmington University. 100% online options and affordable tuition makes WilmU work for you. Learn more at wilmu.edu.
There's so much to explore in Valley Forge in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. Montgomery County is composed of charming towns and main streets, and each with its own personality, style, and unique vibe. Whether you are looking to get away with family or enjoy a special trip with friends, leave behind the stress of planning and use our guide to find some of the most amazing things to do. Explore which town and main street suit you best. Visit makeitmainstreet.com to plan your getaway today.
Hey, man, Sixers fans do not like to be embarrassed. No fans do. But Sixers fans don't like to be embarrassed, particularly by losing to the Boston Celtics, a storied rivalry. You go up there the first time you play them this season, Jason Tatum goes nuts with the crazy numbers. I think he ended up with 26 and 16. And you add in all that speculation about Jaylen Brown, hoping that, this is a game that you can kind of look at him a little bit and hope that maybe the trade for Simmons for Jaylen Brown might actually come to fruition. But instead you're left, wondering when things will be better. But there was some good in last night's game. And surprisingly, the Sixers scored 20 points in the first quarter, bro. Shake Milton had 12 of those 20 points as the rest of the starting lineup just looked rough, and Shake came off the bench. So we're talking about bench points. And I think at the end of the game, the entire starting lineup was a minus, like a -6, -9, -1, wherever it may be. And every player that played on the bench was a plus. So it just goes to show how bad the starting lineup was. We have lauded and enjoyed, the second unit here for the Sixers before, but once again, we talked about it before in the podcast. They start 7-1 last year. COVID hit with Seth Curry, and things went awry. They start 8-2 this year. COVID decimates them, and here we are at 11-11. But Shake Milton, give him credit, man, because he had it going on, particularly when it looked like Al Horford was turning into Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, hook shotting and blocking shots and whatnot in the first quarter. It was frustrating to watch, but Shake brought them back to make it respectable. But ends up with 16 points. So he scores 12 in the first quarter and then ends up with 16 for the game. What did you see, Ben? I mean, it's so many things to harp on in this game, but at least Shake had it going on for a bit and kept them in the game. And maybe if he had, 18 points, they would have won.
I saw Shake Milton looking like delivering one of those efforts that we haven't seen.
I thought he was on the hit for that 39 like he did against the Clippers. He was cooking in that first quarter.
Yeah, he was cooking 12. The Celtics played a too big lineup with Ennis Cancer. I'm not sure if he officially changed his last name to
Ennis
Freedom yet.
You got it. Yep.
But so Ennis Cancer Freedom was they Celtics used a two big lineup with Freedom in there. And Shake just took advantage of it. He just pounded them. And when Ennis Cancer Freedom started to drop, Shake would pull up, and he got 12 good points that the Sixers needed in that first quarter. Because without Milton, they would have just got blown away throughout the whole game. Like, it would have never been close. And the game was ugly to begin with. And the second quarter, it started to slow down. I'm not exactly sure why. But his opening stanza, that opening quarter was phenomenal. And he looked like a semi-credible attacker that we all hoped that he would become 2 years ago. Then the bubble thing happened, and he wasn't what we all hoped or wished for. But last night was evidence that he's capable of doing it, but just maybe not game in and game out.
Yeah, bro. I mean, at half, at half, Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, Danny Green, and Tyrese Maxey were combined like 3 for 25. So without Shake Milton, you would have got nothing. And since I bring up Maxey, I just want to take a quick minute because before we get to Seth Curry, which is another bright spot, Maxey ends up in the game 3 for 13, right? Since Joel has come back, it really seems like he is deferring and being less aggressive than he had been with Joel out. And I get it that, you got to set the big man up. You're a point guard and things like that. But this is a newer NBA where the guard and particularly the point guards are given a green light and highlighted. I mean, there's no nights off, for Tyrese Maxey, when it comes to playing point guard in the NBA. I mean, every team has some perimeter player that you're going to be switched onto or guard straight up that is prolific, can handle the ball and score. Not quite the case last night, but Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum on the wing is formidable, and you always have to be on your toes, especially with Marcus Smart on the floor. But the thing is, with Shake Milton, playing well, it really accentuated the fact that Tyrese Maxey is not playing well right now. And Ty Johnson brought up a point on Sixers Outsiders that he feels like Tyrese is hitting the wall considering how many minutes he's had to play with everybody being out with COVID, him being a starter this year, and that the minutes, the shot attempts, all of the, things I mentioned about having to be on your toes defensively each and every night, he's hitting a bit of a wall and maybe needs a load management day or, maybe to be reworked into the rotation to kind of back his minutes down a little bit. Obviously, you go into Atlanta, he's going to be, guarding Trae Young. So that's going to be a difficult task as well. I feel like it's less of him hitting the wall, but more his aggressiveness has waned because Joel Embiid is back with the team and he's deferring to Joel where he needs to continue to be the aggressive, look for his shot Tyrese Maxey along with setting up Joel. Like there has to be a balance there. And I don't know if Joel needs to say something and kind of give him like a, hey, like do your thing, like continue to be what you were. You don't worry about me. I don't know if he needs to have like a little talking to with him in that regard or whatever, but it's like you got to recapture what he was. And I think that, Shake playing well exacerbated the fact that Maxey wasn't playing well.
Cool. Maxey, he's looked phenomenal. I think he's still young, second year in the league. And it's a lot on his plate. It's his job to command the offense, set other guys up. And it's unfortunate that he's one of two people on the team that can create a shot for himself and others. And he's the better at it. As I said earlier, when Shake was supposed to do it, it was just too much on his plate to consistently ask him to do that. It will really help the Sixers if they had another ball handler. Since Tyrese Maxey is the only one doing it, it just seems like it just might be too much on his plate. That's why I think the aggressiveness has gone down to make sure other guys are getting theirs and setting them up. Maybe Ty is on to something when it comes to giving him a rest day, a load management day, but he is not. And I don't want to make it sound like he's been playing awful by any means, because he hasn't. It's just that we know what Tyrese Maxey is capable of, and recently he just has not been providing that.
I think, with his lack of aggressiveness, we're talking about aggressiveness. Seth Curry's aggressiveness hasn't gone anywhere. I mean, he continues to, show up for the Sixers. He hit a big three against the Magic to help them win that game. Here he is, going 7 of 13, continuing on that 50, 40, 90 pace in yet another game. But as prolific as he was with 24 points against the Magic, he didn't contribute as much scoring wise to help the Sixers get over the hump. And some of that is just the opportunities, in a game like this, you're taking 13 shots when everyone else is playing so poorly. You would like to see him take 20 shots. I mean, because he has that Curry magic where you feel like every time he shoots the ball, it's going to go in. Like, he's at that point where, his stroke and the way he squares up to the basket and all the things that, contribute to being a great shooter, it just looked great. So you would like to have seen him take more shots. He got to the line a few times. Once on an and one, and you maybe would like to see him get to the line more. And he has been aggressive. A game like last night, you were wanting to see be more aggressive, but he's probably the only bright spot in the starting lineup for the Sixers right now. And if Curry is going, you will hope it will be, contagious throughout the team, but just nobody else really had it, going on, Shake Milton briefly, but, hopefully they can figure things out on this road trip, because they got 3 more games to go with the Hawks and 2 against Charlotte, a Charlotte team that took Milwaukee to the brink and can score in bunches. So the Sixers need to figure out their offensive woes. It was a bad game last night, but hopefully they can get things together.
Coming back to Seth Curry, he is the Sixers' bailout machine. When their offense looked putrid and they waste 14 to 18 seconds on the shot clock, they give it to Seth, and he's supposed to bail them out, which is, I'm thankful that he's on the team. It's also very unfair to him. I would have liked to see Tyrese get him more involved in the second half, or Seth just get himself more involved. I think this is, we talked earlier, Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers should have made sure Seth Curry was more involved in the second half. And I think down the stretch of the games, and maybe this is unfair for Curry and Embiid, but it should just be those two playing pick and roll back and forth between the rest of them. Yes, you want Tyrese Maxey to develop, but the Sixers need to win games, and you don't want to waste Embiid's prime. Right now, that's the best crunch time offense that the Sixers has produced. It's unfortunate for Tobias Harris that he's not involved in this, but set everyone aside. Let Seth and the Joel Embiid play just a 2-man game and get you some buckets. I think that's the Sixers' best offense down the stretch.
Part of the problem is Joel wants to shoot almost just as many jumpers as Seth Curry. So
as you said that, and this is why I think it would be very nice to get a veteran ball handler on the team, someone that's going to tell Joel Embiid to get his butt down in the paint. You don't have Jimmy Butler here anymore to make him do that. People thought,
particularly when the shot isn't falling, like the shot's not falling, you got to do a little inside out, big fella. Like, you can't just keep hanging around the 3-point line.
It would just be nice to have a court general to tell him, someone like Chris Paul, get your butt down there. We're going to feed it to you down low. Don't come out above the top of the key. Get down there. We're going to get you the ball. But it's not that. So playing the 2-man game with Seth and Joel is the Sixers' best offense in crunch time. We
got to give a milk carton alert to Furkan Korkmaz, bro. 6 minutes, 0 shots. What is happening with Furkan? It seems like he's not even in the rotation. There was a time where he was kind of like the point guard of that second unit, Here he is in this game, and really the game against Orlando. Like, you can put him on the back of a milk carton, bro. He looks a little lost out there. He's not, getting the favor of the coaches or opportunities like he used to. Do the Sixers miss Furkan?
Yes, it is. I'm not exactly sure why he's not playing. They could use his shooting when it's there. His defense has never been great, but at times it's been efficient. I think he had, 3 assists in 6 minutes? I'm not sure why he's not playing. Before we started recording, I thought maybe he got injured or sick, just wasn't filling up to it. But I don't know if it's trade rumors. I don't know what's going on. But Furkan only having 6 minutes when you have that type of offensive output isn't encouraging. There has to be a reason he's not playing.
He played 16 minutes against Orlando, went 1 for 6 for 2 points, 0 for 4 from 3. Another player I think would benefit from some time with everybody in the gym together, practicing, getting reacclimated, trying to gel once more, because, they come off the road trip, try to work Joel back in. Tobias was in and out of the lineup with his injury. That's why you got to be so pleased with Seth Curry, because he has been so consistent throughout this entire process. It's frustrating right now for Sixers fans, but hopefully they'll find some redemption in Atlanta as they take on the Hawks on Friday. Check us out on NBC Sports Philadelphia. I anticipate a tough game, but I'm hoping that they can hang in there enough and have a chance to win like they did against the Celtics. Any last things before we get out of here, Ben?
Not including last night, not including the game against the Celtics. Furkan has been somewhat putrid. It's been bad. Shout out to Serena Winters who put this out. And last 10-game stretch, 20.7 from beyond the arc. That's 11 for 53, 25.8% from the field, 23 of 89.
Ooh, that will get you in the bench.
Last night's game, it's not much better, even though he didn't put up any field goals last night. Right. All those same numbers, just 11 games.
Man, Sixers fans looking for some answers. And right now, trading Ben Simmons isn't the problem. That's not the issue. It's the guys who are on the floor. It's the guys who are on the floor that they need to figure out and get to the bottom of. So, hey, hopefully there is a get-right moment here on this trip. Hopefully it's not one of those trips where they don't win any games. Can you imagine coming back to play the Warriors in Utah and having gone over on this road trip? I can't and I don't want to think about that. But either way, Sixers Talk Podcast will be here with you. We're brought to you by Wilmington University. WilMU works for Ben Berry, Noah Levick. I'm Danny Pommells. We'll see you next time.